Hi everybody, and welcome to the October 31st edition of Mastodon's Bookshelf. Sorry for the gap last week, but this week is going to turn out to be extra long, so it seems to make up for it. I'll end up having to split it into two videos, I think, because it's going to probably be long, and you won't want to sit through all of it in one go, I imagine. Anyways, today's story does not have a title, because what I would title it would be rather telling. It's kind of it is a fairy tale rewrite, and so go into it with that in mind and see if you can figure out which one it is before the end, when it will become clear. So without further ado, here's the story. Jocelyn knocked on the door. "Ellie, Ellie, Mother says that it's time to come down," she called. There was a resigned sigh that could be heard through the door, and then a voice called out, "I'll be right out." Jocelyn hesitated. It sounded like Ellie had been crying again. "Do you want me to wait for you?" she asked, concerned. No, it's okay." Ellie descended the stairs. The third step from the bottom creaked as she shifted her weight onto the step. It always creaked like that. As if summoned by the noise, a woman emerged from the adjoining room. Ellie stopped at the bottom on the stairs. "Stepmother," she said. "Daughter," her stepmother said, crossing the gap between them, hugging Ellie and kissing her cheek. Ellie tried to twist away, but she couldn't quite manage it in her stepmother's embrace. Tears glistened in her eyes. "Please, stepmother, just let me die. I can't bear this any longer." "My dear, don't say such things. We'll find a way to fix this. Come now, it's almost time." Ellie's head dropped, silent tears sliding down her cheeks, but she followed her stepmother down the stairs to the basement. It wasn't long before stepmother emerged from the basement. She sat down on the top step and buried her face in her hands, trying to stop herself from crying. The light coming in through the windows faded quickly, and noises started drifting up from the bottom of the stairs, snarls and growls. A hand touched her shoulder, and she started in surprise. "Oh, Jocelyn." "Come away, Mother. There's nothing you can do right now." "It just breaks my heart," she sighed. "How could her father have done this to her?" "Kayla's just put dinner on the table. Come eat." Jocelyn left the question unanswered and pulled at her mother's hand, helping her to her feet. "It'll get cold if you don't come now." Yes," said her mother, pulling a handkerchief from her sleeve to dab at her eyes. "I'm sorry. It's hard on us all, Mother. But the priest will arrive tomorrow. He'll have an answer." "I hope so, my dear. For the sake of all our souls, I hope he does." Morning came and the sun rose slowly. Kayla held out a candle in one hand and descended the stairs into the basement. There weren't any windows in the small cellar at the bottom. The only light came from the candle that she held. The candle cast gloomy shadows around the room, giving only enough light to see the outline of the cage. "Ellie?" she called out. "Are you awake?" There was a rustling among the straw that covered the floor of the cage. "Leave me alone." "I brought you clean clothes down." Kayla put the bundle she was carrying down and unlocked the cage. "Mother said breakfast will be ready soon." "I'm not hungry." "You must eat something. The priest will be here before noon." Ellie sniffed. "What's the use? Just leave me locked in here to die." "Don't say that, Ellie. Someone did this to you. That means it can be undone." Kayla went into the cage and knelt down beside her stepsister. She hugged Ellie, whose naked body shivered with the cold of the cellar. Kayla held Ellie and stroked her hair while she cried. They sat there on the floor as Ellie cried, while Kayla whispered soothing words to her. "Kayla, Ellie, are you coming up?" Jocelyn called down from upstairs. "Mother wants you to hurry and have some breakfast before the priest arrives." Kayla wiped Ellie's eyes. "Let's get you dressed and have breakfast. You'll feel better after having something to eat." It was later that afternoon when there was a knocking on the door. Ellie was sitting in the den looking at the window. It was a grey afternoon with raindrops splattering against the glass. It felt like the weather was echoing how she felt inside. There were voices that came from the entryway, but she couldn't hear them clearly. Not that she cared about what they were saying. Her stepmother sat down beside her on the couch, while the priest took a seat on the chair across from them. Ellie didn't listen to the conversation between her stepmother and the priest. Instead, she kept watching the rain out the window. Her thoughts weren't in the room. It had been 10 years ago. She'd only been 7 years old and still lived with her father at the time, when she and her father had come across the gypsies. Her father had spent an entire day in their leader's tent. Ellie didn't know what they had talked about, but it wasn't until after nightfall that she and her father left the camp. Later that same year, Ellie and her father had come here. Her birth mother had passed away when she was just a little girl, and her father remarried to her stepmother. Together they'd been a happy family. However, one day, 3 years ago, the gypsies came to find them. Ellie didn't know why, just that her father had broken his bargain that he'd made with their leader, and her father had fled. As Ellie was the only blood relation left to her father, the gypsies cursed her in retribution for her father's broken bargain. It was slow at first. They didn't realize that the curse was real to begin with. Now it was destroying their lives as the curse took control of her every night, turning her into a monstrous beast. "Can you do anything for her?" "I cannot break the curse. Only the gypsies can do that." The old priest took a medallion out of his robes. "This medallion should stop the curse from manifesting as long as she wears it." "I'm sorry, but that's all I can do." Ellie's stepmother took the medallion from the old man, tears welling in her eyes. "This is the most hope we've had in years. How can we ever repay you?" The priest shook his head. "We don't ask for repayment. We only wish to help." The old man got up to leave, but he stopped at the door and looked back at the two women sitting on the sofa. "Remember," he cautioned, "she must always wear the medallion. If it's taken off or lost, the curse will return."